Alright everybody, how's it going? To another episode of First Attack. Last week, I think it was last week, I did some tests with some audio. So please let me know if the background music is too loud. So, alright guys, how's it going everybody? Tonight, unfortunately there will be no Ultra David. He is out of town. He is on some business right now. And so it is just going to be an episode of First Attack today. And what I decided to do this week is just do some Ask jchensor questions. I've been talking about it for a long time, about answering a bunch of questions. I have a huge backlog of Ask jchensor questions. So I wanted to talk, I wanted to answer a bunch of those questions because, you know, I was going through them today. There's actually a lot of really good questions here. Again, a lot of these questions range all sorts of levels. There are some, you know, very beginner questions. There's some community questions and such. So I'm just going to go through them in no particular order. So some of these questions probably going to be very, very basic level and such. And I see a lot of people on the stream right now. They want to talk about a lot of the stuff that's been going on this past weekend. Obviously there has been a lot of stuff going on, but most likely we will be talking about most of that stuff tomorrow on the Tuesday show, which I don't know, maybe we should keep it Tuesday haters every week. I don't know, but we'll see how it goes about that. So So let's do some Ask jchensor questions, and like I said, huge backlog. Some of these questions date all the way even as far back as January. But what I'm going to start with, actually, is I'm going to start with a lot of the emails that I just got today about UltraChen. So I just tweeted earlier today, you know, if you have any questions, you know, that you would like me to answer today, that you can send them to me via email. And I got quite a few of them, so let me address some of those first because they are the most recent, and most likely the people who sent those questions in are going to be watching today. So let's get to that really quick. So we got a lot of questions to go. So all right, so here we go. Let's answer some of these questions in no particular order. Someone here, Aaron, has asked me, this is actually a very common question that I get a lot, and I have answered this a couple of times on stream already, but it seems to me that, you know, and this is a question that I want to know the answer to in a lot of ways too, because I've always said my reactions are really, really bad. So, he asks, what's the best way to improve reactions? There's really comes down to two answers. Answer that I've said many times before. A lot of the times, you'd be surprised how little reactions actually play into fighting games. A lot of the times, reactions just come from anticipation. A lot of times it's not actually reactions, blocking overheads and, you know, blocking mix-ups and stuff like that. A lot of times it's not reactions. Sometimes it's even just, you know, in Marvel, pure left-right mix-up. Sometimes it's even just pure guessing. A lot of the times it's just, what it actually comes down to most of the times is familiarity with situations. One of the best examples I like to give is empty jump, low short, or empty jump, you know, low hit. You see people block that a lot, and it's a pretty tricky mix-up. What ends up happening is that most of the time that people block it, it's just because they're used to this timing that by the time you reach a point in the jump, you know if they kick at that point, their kick is going to whiff. It's just not going to come out in time. It has too much startup. So when an opponent jumps at you and they try to do an empty jump, they just reach a certain height in their jump, like right before they reach the ground, that you know that you're just going to switch to low. And so because you never blocked a jump attack, there's just something intrinsically in your brain that tells you to go to down back. Now the only thing that's going to teach you that is experience. And so reaction is definitely needed, especially in games like Marvel, and especially in a lot more of the, anime games, the more air dash games and stuff with all the mix-ups and left and right. But again, try not to place too much importance on reactions. You'd really be surprised at how important... Oops, hang on. You'd be really surprised at how important no reactions are. I mean, like, anticipation and familiarity with situations are. The second question that he asks, another question that I get actually quite often, a lot of people wonder how you get accustomed to punishing things. They say, like, you'll see someone whiff an uppercut and you just run up and you're like, oh my god, he whiffed an uppercut, throw! So you throw him, but really, honestly, you're sitting on 3 bars. You could have did like EX move, FADC, and Ultra and just killed them, but instead you did something weak and wasn't enough damage. That is almost the exact same thing as the reaction question, because a lot of times the max punish is not a reaction. The max punish is just what you're used to. As soon as you see someone do an uppercut, you're already trained to just do... You've seen the situation so many times, your brain is already just ready to go to say, oh, he whiffed an uppercut, here's my max damage combo. And again, that just comes from a lot of playing, and every time you do the throw and not do the correct punish, you just, you tell yourself, I made that mistake. And then what you can do is actually just go online, play a game where your whole goal is to bait out uppercuts. Bait out uppercuts all day, or bait out those situations that you want to punish, and look for that all day. Don't try to win. Don't try to kill him in any other way. That's your only goal, is to try to bait him out to uppercut. And as soon as he uppercuts, your first instinct should just be to go to that combo. Just play games that your whole specific goal is to punish with your max damage combo. And then that way, once you do that enough times, when you play regular games, when that situation comes up, it will help you remember to do that. So that's a really good strategy. Alright, so let's go to the next question here. So if I go to the next question here, this question is about Persona 4. A lot of people have been asking about this game. So Kevin asks me, Persona 4 has been seeing a lot of success lately at tournaments, and the community seems to be getting behind it. Do you think Persona 4 Arena has a good chance of being incorporated into existing majors and EVO 2013? I don't even think that's a question, to be honest with you. Majors are pulling that game in all over the place. In fact, there was one tournament in Arizona, I think it's the Arcade in a Box tournament, that I think it's the last tournament that's going to be at that venue, because the venue is closing down, unfortunately. But they're dropping Cross Tekken and putting Persona into the tournament. And, we're going to see this all over the place. Seasons Beatings is probably going to have Persona. I would be surprised if Canada Cup doesn't have Persona. Persona is really picking up a lot of steam. In fact, I'm actually surprised about this. It's picking up a lot more steam than I thought it was going to be. And so I think I think the game is going to do well. Do I think it's going to make it to EVO 2013? Right now, I personally think that there is a very strong chance of that, and it really just depends on the next couple of months, because unfortunately the thing going against Persona is that it is the flavor of the month right now. It is the new game, so everybody's playing it. So we're going to have to see what happens after a couple of months, see if people are still playing it. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, people are already kind of being frustrated with Mitsuru being like, a lot of people are complaining about her as like a brainless character, whatever like that. Some people are talking about imbalance. We don't know where this game is going. It's still really brand new, so it's hard to say. 3 months from now, it could turn out to be the most unbalanced game in the history of fighting games, because we found something out that we didn't know before. It's happened, and at that point, we'll see if they make a new patch or something like that, but, it's still too early to tell, but from my personal feelings, I think the game has a really good chance of making it into EVO. If it can keep up this momentum, if it can stay a highly played game and popular game, there is absolutely no reason why it cannot be at EVO 2013. All right. So this question comes from some player. His nickname is OMG. It's Andre. I don't know. I don't know who this guy is. In any case, this guy Andre asks. So since Dead or Alive 5 releases next month, how do you think the fighting game community will handle it? Will it head to MLG or be accepted in the core group along with the other fighters? Again, it's so hard to say at this point. This game is definitely developed with a very different mentality. There was already an event up in North that Markman was at. Markman from Mad Catz, Kayane was at. They were playing some Dead or Alive 5 at that event. So, I'm sure with the way things are going right now, a lot of people, they recognize the power of our community now. It's really interesting to me because the one thing that I've noticed that has changed dramatically over the years is the publisher support, the amount of stuff that they're pushing for these games and such. So I'm sure Tecmo is going to be doing a lot of push for DOA 5. We'll see how it goes. I hate saying that. I said that about Persona. We'll see how it goes. But honestly, that's just the way it's going to work. We have to see how this game is going to perform at majors, at tournaments and such. So, if you want to make this game succeed, if you are a player who loves Dead or Alive, for example, Perfect Legend, he won Dead or Alive at EVO a few years ago, and I know he's really into the series. As a player, if you really enjoy these games, push for your local tournaments to start playing this game and do what you can to promote the quality of the game. Make tutorial videos, teach people how to play, show hype match videos, do your own commentary. That would be awesome. If you're an expert at Dead or Alive 5 and there was a tournament that happened and it has some awesome matches, take those videos and dub your own commentary on top of it and explain what's going on in the game. Show us why there's this high-level tactics. Try to teach people how to play the game. I've been talking about Persona. A lot of people are like, well, we'll see how well this game stacks up. My response to that is, don't just sit and see. Do something about it. We are the fighting game community. Every one of you guys out there is the fighting game community. We don't have to wait and see. We can control it. We can actually push for games to succeed or not. So it's up to us. If Dead or Alive 5 turns out to be a great game and nobody plays it, that's a problem. So if it turns out to be a good game, do your part to push for it. I have a question from Sergio. It's actually pretty cool that he asked this question because this was a problem I was having with Persona 4. He was saying that he really likes the game, but he has a hard time with the default button layout. And trust me, the default button layout is destroying me. I am having so much trouble trying to adapt, and it's because I'm a creature of habit. I'm very bad at breaking habits. I mean, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? So that's my problem there. So it's actually funny because as a pure means of taking care of trying to help people with this, I actually created a page on the Shoryuken.com Persona 4 Arena wiki. There's actually a whole page there where I lay out a bunch of different layouts and talk about the pros and cons for that. You can find that at wiki.shoryuken.com/persona P_4_A arena, and then there will be a link to layouts there. You can check it out. I'll tweet out the link later, but check that out, and hopefully that can help you out. Let's see here. So I'm getting a question here from Aliette, and Aliette is asking, well, Aliette has two friends who have trouble just getting to that next level, and funny enough, see, I told you these questions come back quite often. The first player has trouble with punishing stuff, so I talked about that. Just learn to punish, go with a certain tactic, and just keep trying to figure it out. And then the other friend has trouble. He's using Balrog and has trouble doing charge moves. He's having trouble playing a charge character, like he's having trouble doing headbutt into Ultra. I talked about that in one of my execution videos. You can probably go back and take a look at that. But that's just going to be practice. Learn to do the headbutt while keeping the controller at back. So you go from down back to up back, and that keeps the charge for the Ultra. So when you do the headbutt that way, you never lose the charge for the Ultra. So right when you land from the headbutt, you can just go from back, forward, and then hit 3 punches or 3 kicks and get the Ultra out. I do believe I talked about it in one of the execution videos. You can find that on youtube.com/UltraChenTV. So, alright. Let's go to the next question. Oh, and Aliette also mentions that both friends have trouble with links. I do have a whole episode on plinking that talks about that, and I also have an episode that will also help from helping Marvel players going from Marvel to Street Fighter and how to deal with links. So check those out on our YouTube channel, and they should be able to help you out. Ryan Watson asks, and this is another common question that I've been getting a lot. How do I feel about the current competitive standing on Cross Tekken? Do I feel like it can make a comeback and become a hype game? Will the new DLC characters bring back life to the game? I don't know. It's really, really rough right now. The game is looking kind of bleak. It needs something major to change for it to reach that level. It can be a very fun game to play. Me and David talk about this all the time. In fact, David keeps finding crazy new tech. What was the new tech that he was just telling me about? The whole alpha counter problem. Like when you try to alpha counter and the opponent doesn't attack you, you end up doing a raw tag, which is super punishable. So he's actually learned to try to alpha counter by doing fireball with hard punch and hard kick. And that goes into, for example, with Ryu, he ends up throwing a fireball, so you hold the buttons down, and then he charges up the fireball, you can backdash cancel it. But if the enemy does attack and you block it, you end up alpha countering because that's the only thing that'll come out. It's kind of an interesting option select. I'm sure he'll love to talk about that a little bit more, and maybe in a future episode or something. But there's a lot of tech that's coming out, and the game definitely, I mean, I hope people watch the New York Street Fighter 25th Anniversary Qualifier. Tatsu played there. We finally got to see Tatsu really do his stuff on stream, and you know he bodied everybody in that game, and you know he made it look kind of enjoyable. But the hardest part is the game is so hard to watch. It's so hard to watch, and as much as people hate X Factor and stuff, Tragic Ben Curitin, he put it the best. He basically called the X Factor worst player mechanic ever, best audience mechanic ever. So as much as people hate X Factor, and as much as people hate it when they play it, it makes the game hype and people enjoy watching Marvel. And Cross Tekken with no comeback factor, you know, it's not as exciting to watch. You know, a lot of people say King of Fighters doesn't have comeback mechanic. Get out of here with that. You know, I mean, seriously, those 100% damage HD combos, that's what brings the hype, because you know as soon as someone lands a jump attack, you're gonna kill a whole entire character, right? If you have a whole HD bar, that kind of brings the hype. Cross Tekken doesn't have any of that kind of stuff, and so it's very obvious at some point in the round when someone's gonna win by time over. Like I said, it's part of the game, and it can be very interesting for play wise, but for viewing, it's hard. Are the new characters gonna fix it? Cross Tekken's problems are all system based. It's all based on the system. And the game needs to be, there needs to be something done to make it more enjoyable to watch. Of course, you talk to a lot of the top players, Justin Wong, Ricky Ortiz, and such. They love the game. They think it's fun because it's an honest game. It's an honest fighting game where the best player will always win. But, you know, there's a reason why people love watching poker on TV and stuff like that, or NCAA. There's a reason why people love watching that, because they love upsets, right? Upsets make things more exciting. So, you know, it's going to be a hard road for Cross Tekken. Now, Ayana-san did say that they are looking through some major system changes, perhaps, to try to fix the game. I don't know if that's going to happen. If it does, we'll see how that works. If it doesn't happen, then I can't really have too much faith in the game for, surviving much longer, despite many people's efforts to keep the game alive. Ooh, this is a long question. I should probably. Well, the question from Malcolm is: I want to start going to local and maybe even major out-of-state tournaments for fighting games. What would your advice be for me starting out? There's the only advice is go. Just go. If you have the means. Obviously, there's a lot of us that are young that are still in school and such. It's too hard to get out to these tournaments. If you can make it out to tournaments, do it. Do it, because not only if your local area is a small scene, going to it is only supporting it, even if it's small. Like I said, we are the fighting game community. All of us are the fighting game community. We can be brilliant at times, in which we can take communities far places. We can be pretty bad sometimes, especially when you get the Legion, the whole stream monstering thing, the negative trolls on the stream. Obviously we can be good or bad, but regardless of it, we have a lot of power. Every one of you guys out there have a ton of power, and it's going to be up to you guys to be able to help bring up these scenes. So if the only thing you can do is travel to a local, even if it's just 10 people, go. Try to bring a friend. Try to find someone else who's kind of mildly interested and bring them. If you have the ability to go to a Seasons Beatings or a CEO or a Final Round or a Northwest Majors, NorCal Regionals, whatever, and you have the means, you've saved up, you've planned to go. If you want to go to EVO, especially EVO, because EVO will change your life. I tell everybody that. If you can go to one of those things, just do it. There's really nothing to be said about, just starting out. The way you start out traveling to tournaments is just go. Just go and you will have a good time. Obviously there's some advice, make sure you plan your trip out properly, and go there with certain expectations and such, and that's one of the topics that I would love to talk about, is learning to research events and finding out which ones are good or bad, and making sure that you go to the right ones. That's a huge thing. So yeah, in any case, if you can, go. If you can go to a tournament, go. But make sure that they're worth it. Make sure that they're the right tournaments. Make sure they are not shady, because as much as we want to pretend that there's not shady tournaments out there, there are shady tournaments everywhere. And yeah, seriously, Mulda Knight writes it on there, a quote from Spooky, please shower. I mean, seriously, come on, guys. It's just hygiene, seriously. Okay. Anyways, let's go on to the next question. Someone asks if me and Ultra David if we're roommates, or are we childhood friends because we communicate like brothers. To be honest with you, I haven't known Ultra David for all that long, to be honest with you. Actually, Monster Hands has a great question. I do want to talk about that. He says, how come when you know about the shady ones, why don't you tell the fighting game community? There is always the chance that people can redeem themselves. I've always believed in that, and Revelations last year, SoCal Regionals before that, were very well run tournaments. They were very well run tournaments. Obviously Level Up had a lot to do with that. No reason to think that they were going to do horribly this year. They've done some questionable things in the past. But I'm not going to go sit here and just be like, yo, don't go to this event because I think they're terrible. It's my opinion. And it could have been an amazing event. It could have been an amazing event. I made my own decisions, and, it's great when, you turn out right. I don't want to call it right, but, when things go the way that you thought they were going to go, it's easy to sit there and be like, yo, haha, but hindsight is always 20/20. All right. So I don't want to be that negative person, that doesn't want to give people a chance. So it didn't turn out well. again, we'll talk a lot more about it tomorrow, so I don't want to get too much into it. So, okay, so back to me and Ultra David. To be honest with you, me and Ultra David met through the HDR forums. We did not know each other before then. It was when HDR was being made, and the two of us began talking, in particular because I made a rather scathing post on Honda being one of the worst character designs and how I would change him. And David was just basically like, you're full of crap. And the interesting thing about it is, though, as we kept discussing Honda, it just, we found each other to be both very logically intelligent people who are willing to discuss things, you know, in an intelligent manner. And it, honestly, that's just how it grew from there. And then when we started doing Shiggle's Garage for Wednesday night fights, you know, early days, the two of us got put on commentary. And, you know, again, because I think we already knew what the other person was like, we just kind of had this chemistry that just kind of worked. It took a while. You watch some of the early commentary that we do, and we were ass. I mean, we would cut each other off, and I would not shut up, and David would just be like, God, won't this stupid guy shut up and stuff, you know. It took a while, but after a while, you know, it just started gelling, so it's really cool, so. But yeah. So, Dion, who asked that question, did have a more serious question, and he's basically asking, when the hell are me and David getting back to Wednesday night fights or the run back? He says, is it just because we've been busy? To be honest with you, after Evo, dude, oh my god, we've just been so exhausted, and these Austin events and New York events have also taken a little toll on us. Don't worry, most likely I'll be trying to make it back this week. It'll just be me, but for sure when Season 4 starts, and Season 4 starting in September, first week of September, there's a lineup change. Go to levelup-series.com, and you can see the new schedule that they have there. Wednesday's going to be Tekken, Street Fighter, and Virtua Fighter, and Thursday is going to be Persona, King of Fighters, and Marvel. So that is what Season 4 is going to be like. It's going to be some crazy stuff, be super exciting, but we will definitely be back for the beginning of Season 4. Alright, let's see here. Let's go to the next question. Am I going to take Street Fighter 4 seriously again? Oh, I've never stopped taking it seriously. I still play that game. I just don't get to practice it enough because I've been putting so much time in Marvel. And unfortunately, I'm not getting any better in Marvel, but it's taking time away from my Street Fighter, so my Street Fighter is getting worse. So now I want to play Persona, and I've always wanted to keep trying King of Fighters. It's so hard right now, so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully I'll be able to get in there. But before I get to the next question, I'm going to take a quick break. So I will be right back, guys, and stick around for some more Ask jchensor questions. Alright, welcome back, guys. I'm going to take a break from the email questions here, and what I'm going to do is jump to some of the archive questions. Again, a lot of these questions were when First Attack started, so a lot of these are very, very basic questions. So, you know, a lot of you players who are more familiar with fighting games, hopefully, you know, hopefully I can provide some sort of kind of cool insight about them, despite them being fairly basic questions. For example, someone, Max asked me a long time ago, how do you choose your character, your team, and do you think in different ways in different games? It's the funny thing is the very first the beginning of the question is very, very, a basic question. I've covered it before in I think it was episode 2 of First Attack about how to pick your character and stuff. A lot of people ask me this question about, do I go with character loyalty? I really like Yuri, but, should I play Ryu and Ken to learn basics? It depends on the kind of person you are. Ultra David, who has just joined in the chat right now, he doesn't give a crap about storyline, backstory, the way the character looks. He just likes if they have command throws or if they just have a cool thing that like blows people up and stuff. For me, I care all about that stuff. I love backstory. I love the way characters look. I apparently have a thing for chicks with blue hair. So, it's very important to me to use a character that I like. So there's two different mentalities to think about it. If you're a player... But see, here's the tricky thing though. Ultra David is still picking characters based on what he likes. And he likes it based on the mechanic. He loves the things that, like Shadow Labrys. As soon as he saw that Persona had that command throw, he's just, that's where the hearts came from. He loves the character design, as much as I like the way the characters look or story-wise or something like that. So, both of us still have that thing where we'll gravitate towards certain characters based on certain things. So, I 100% recommend whatever it is about a character that you like, that you go to that character, because it's that much easier to get better at characters you like. I don't know, you just naturally put more investment into them, right? But, having said that, it is never wrong to go and pick someone like Ryu or Ken to learn basics, and not even learn basics, but just learn the other characters. Especially in a game like Tekken. Tekken Tag 2's coming out very soon. You can spend all your time learning your characters you want, but it's very important to learn the other characters and finding out what their low attacks look like, and just in generally how they play. Some other games not so much like that. Games like a game like Marvel, for example, you can actually just design your team to kill the entire opponent team without them having a chance to do anything. Then it doesn't matter who they are and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's always good to broaden your scope when it comes to a fighting game. I will say that in Street Fighter 4, there was one point in time where when I was playing online for vanilla, all I would do was play Cammy. And I just told myself, I'm not advancing, I'm not getting any better, I'm losing a lot, so I went online and played Random Select. I ended up playing all the different characters, all these different styles and stuff, and when I finally went back to Cammy, my Cammy had improved even though I had not touched her for like a month, and online for a month, and that's actually really important. And so, playing different characters is very, very important. And the second half of his question, though, and do you think in different ways in different games? If I wasn't going to do an Ask jchensor episode today, I was going to do an entire episode on that, because it's starting to become very apparent to me that a lot of these different games, a lot of the reasons why people have trouble transitioning from game to game is because they are having trouble changing the way they think. AKA me. This is why I'm bad at Marvel, for example. I can't get my brain out of Street Fighter mentality. So the short answer to this question, yes, you have to think very differently between different games. The long answer will probably be an episode next week or something. So I will talk about that maybe next week. So let's see here. So I answered this question. Sorry guys, I'm going through my notes here. Okay, so next long overdue question. Like, that question was from January 27th, so I apologize to the guys that I've been, putting off from these questions. Let's see, another question here. So Kevin Alvarez asks, how can players deal with trembling hands after playing fighting games? You know, he says he gets nervous after he plays Street Fighter 4. Not so much Tekken, but, you know, after he plays Street Fighter 4, he finds his hands shaking. There was always one question. Oh, there was always one thing that I always remember. There was I think it was at B5. I played a CVS1 match against Doc Bomb from Northern California. I think he worked at the arcade. He was a technician there. He was the mechanic at that tournament who was fixing all the cabinets. We had a CVS1 match that came down to the wire. It was very late in the tournament. We were both pretty far in the tournament. And I still remember so I won the match, and it was really close. And I still remember after I finished the match, I literally got lightheaded. Like, I don't know what happened, but there just must have just been this giant rush of adrenaline that I literally had to sit down. Like, I just found a cabinet and I sat down, and I was just like, I couldn't like concentrate because I was so nervous and just like so tense during the match. And so basically my answer is it's normal. It's gonna happen. And the nerves that you get that cause your hand to shake after tournament, I've had this happen before after matches where you're just like, oh my god, like afterwards, you know. Funny thing is, your hands tend to shake more when you win than when you lose, because when you lose, you're too busy throwing joysticks and punching walls and stuff to notice that your hands are shaking. You know, when your hands shake like that, that's just, again, comes with experience. James Crackhead Chen, I like that. You know, it just comes with experience. The more tournaments you play, the less nervous you get. I talked about situations in fighting games where like you become familiar, you see them whiff foot and uppercut, you already know what to do. Playing in tournaments is just another situation. Once you play in enough of them, your hands will stop shaking, and you will remain calm. You will actually run into some matches where you will still get that feeling afterwards. That can't be helped, but that just means that you and your opponent just had an amazing match, and it's something that you should remember, because it's having matches like that is an unforgettable experience. It's amazing. It's amazing. And once you finally first get that real match that's like that, and you don't get that in casuals with your friends and stuff like that. Maybe you can if you two are both super competitive, but when you play in a tournament and that happens, it is quite a feeling. I'll just say that much. I'll just say that much, and you guys can spam that emoticon on the chat all you guys want. So okay, next question is from Donnie. He asks, how do you find your sweet spot during footsies? I talked about this a lot in an episode where in one of my infamous whiteboard attack vector episodes, and if you go to youtube.com/UltraChenTV, there is an episode there called it's about attack vectors, controlling space, and footsies, I think is what it's called. And that episode will basically describe the whole thing. I talked about how when you're in certain distances, like Guile versus Ryu, you know, advantage Guile, advantage Ryu, advantage Guile, advantage Ryu. That's how you find your sweet spot. You know what distance you want to be from your opponent where you have the advantage. He's going to try to walk into the distance where he gives himself the advantage. And so you're going to try to walk back into the ranges, and therein lies the footsie game. You know, a lot of it you see from, like, you know, great sweeps or whatever like that, and people are like, oh my gosh, you know, that was amazing footsies. And really it's about, you know, disguising yourself, staying in your opponent's advantage position so he starts to feel comfortable, and then you take that step and sweep them. You walk right into your range, your advantage range, and sweep them. And that's how you can play the footsie game. That's how you find your sweet spot, is you try to maintain the situations where you have the advantage. Okay, so answer that question. Again, you know, we talked about learning fundamentals. JNR asks me, in your opinion, best character to learn Street Fighter 4 fundamentals? Ryu. Easy answer. Also, best game to practice reaction and or execution? That one, you know what? It just depends on what game you want to play. The execution in one game is not going to help you in the execution in other games. You can sit there and play a game like Persona, all day, no uppercut motions, and then you're going to be hitting a lot of A, right? I mean, it's not going to help you in other games. You can play Street Fighter, not going to help you in your Magneto tri-dash execution. The right game to practice reaction and or execution is going to be the game that you're interested in playing. However, you should play other games just like you should play other characters. You will learn different things. Playing a lot of Marvel did improve my reactions in Street Fighter 4 a little bit, so it can help. But you have to make sure you don't build bad habits from one game into the other. That's super important. So keep jumping back and forth between games and stuff like that. So, I actually really like this. This is a philosophical question from Christoph on Twitter. He asked, do you like that throws have been repeatedly weakened since ST? Seems like SF Cross Tekken is even going further with that. And, it's true. If you go back to the old days, throws were just so good. And now, as we've gone along, throws have become weaker and weaker and weaker. I don't like it. I like throws. I think throws are amazing. I think they're so much a part of the game. And I would like throws to remain a strong part of, Street Fighter games. Obviously, growing up, I used to think they were cheap. I wouldn't do them. You're in arcades, you threw someone, you're like, oops, sorry, and then you give them throwbacks and stuff like, oh, I'll stand there, you can throw me for free too. That stuff is all gone now. I like throws because of the element that they put in the game, and there's another question that I'm going to get to a little bit later that I can talk about this a lot more. So we'll get to the long answer there. For now, the short answer you can hear from me is I don't like throws being weakened because I think throws are very important to a game's strategy and mechanic. You have games like Killer Instinct 1, which had no throws because they didn't want to have cheap throws in it, and trust me, the game was not better off for it. So, okay. Let's go on to the next question here. So JMV asks if I can explain meter management. I'm going to have a whole episode on that as well, so I'm going to skip that one for now. But just know I will get to it. Let's see. So Peter Ahonen asks, can you name a few good ways to use training mode to improve your game in areas like spacing and footsies? So you can practice your combos. How do you improve footsies with training mode? Probably the easiest way to learn footsies using training mode. It's hard. It's really hard. But a good way to do it is probably just, get... One of the funny things about training mode is that, it records inputs, not the sequence of what actually happens. So if you hold down defensive crouch and just start mashing a bunch of buttons, depending on the playback time, he could do a sweep, but if you mash like sweep into forward and then he gets up and the sweep input gets erased and he gets up with a low forward or something like that, you can actually just mash left and right down and buttons and stuff like that and have pretty much a random computer that's just going to walk around. And then you can just test your distance, you can test your whiff punishing and stuff like that. Not a super effective way to learn footsies, I'm not going to lie, because it's random. Footsies is a lot about anticipation. Like I said, reaction is overrated in fighting games. There's a lot of it is anticipation. So honestly, training mode should be the tool to help you know what to do in footsies, like how to punish things, like test out, like for example, if you're getting bodied by a Ryu low forward a bunch of times, and you're a Zangief user, try hitting it with standing short, try hitting it with standing forward, try hitting it with standing strong. Once you find the moves that you know how to beat them, then you take it online, then you play, then you learn footsies. So training mode helps you learn the tools that you are going to use for footsies, and that is the best thing to do with that. So, okay, I am going to take a quick break again, guys. I'll be right back, and when we come back, I will answer more questions. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to First Attack. I am James Chen, and I am doing an Ask jchensor segment where I'm answering a bunch of questions, even ones that are as old as 6 months. So apologies to everyone who've been backlogged like this. Hope you guys are still tuning in and watching and seeing your questions getting answered. I'm just going to jump right in. Andre Cruz asks, does learning to play different games at a basic level, will it help your overall skill in all of them? And I've already answered that, and I believe it's 100% yes. Alex Vai preaches this all the time. And he says one of the reasons why he was so good is because in Southern Hills Golfland days, he played every game. And you didn't have any choice. Once you lost and you were off the machine, you had to wait this big giant line of quarters to play again. So he would run over to Tekken and play. He would run over to Soul Calibur 2 and play. He would run over to King of Fighters and play. He played Guilty Gear. He played every game. And all those different games. MVC2, he's one of the best guys in MVC2. Playing all the different games definitely helps. I've talked about how the one point in time when Marvel 3 first came out and I started playing it a bunch and basically ignored Street Fighter. Then I went back and played Street Fighter and I had my best season of Wednesday night fights ever in that game. To the point where guys like Mike Ross and Andy OCR were like, holy crap, like what happened? You're playing so much better now. And it's because I went to Marvel. And unfortunately now, I mean, I just haven't touched Street Fighter at all. So it kind of like I learned like basic skills that helped me in Street Fighter, and then I just haven't touched Street Fighter, so I'm crap at the game now. So, but in any case, playing different games helps a lot. Obviously, for top players who are trying to win every game, they have to put in a lot of time. Might not help them so much, but the question is, learning to play games at a basic level, does that help your overall game? The answer is yes. Okay, this is a really cool question. John Lawless, and I'm really sad I did not answer this question earlier. He says, I've got a question for you that's been bugging me for a while. What separates a top player from a scrub? Is it their execution, how long they've played practice, their Yomi reactions? Is it possible for a scrub to become a top player? I've been wondering about this for some time. I think a lot of new players would be interested in hearing this answer. So what is the difference between a top player and a scrub? And you know what the funny thing is? I can tell you right now, the main difference is just mentality. Unfortunately, the word scrub has become highly associated with a bad player. Really, honestly, the best way to describe a scrub is someone who thinks they are beyond their means and will not learn and thinks that they are the best, and they don't think there's anything to learn. Whereas a top player, they will never think that they've learned it all. They will always be trying to learn. Top players know that there is always something to learn in a fighting game. There will always be something new to learn, and they will never stop trying to learn. A scrub is the guy who beats up on all of his friends, thinks he's the best, because he can beat up on all of them. He's not going to learn any new tactics because he doesn't need to, because he's beating everybody. Then he goes to a tournament and gets bodied like the scrub he is. So, I mean, if you want to talk about, scrub, not actually a scrub, but just a beginner versus a top player, yes, a beginner can easily become a top player because there is not a single top player that did not start as a beginner. Justin always tells the story about him getting bodied by his friends at Chinatown Fair, and it was just, that drive, like, I don't want to get bodied by my friends anymore, that got him to be as good as he is. Everybody starts off as a scrub, so you definitely, if you're not good now, you can get good. You can get good with the right amount of dedication. It might take more hours for some people than others. I'm not going to lie. There are just some people who are just naturally good at things. So it might take you twice, 3 times longer than some other guy. Could take you 10 times longer than the other guys. But I honestly believe anybody could play the game and get to a very, very competent level. Alright, so let's see. What other questions do I have here? Let me get to some very recent Ask jchensor questions that were from Twitter. Spambot asked me, could I explain reversals and why they and how they work? Actually, I'm going to save that question for another time when I have a little more time to go through there. I don't want to spend too much time on one answer. That will require me going into the game and doing demonstrations and stuff like that. But he also asks the question, why does Street Fighter and such need 6 buttons when Virtua Fighter can get lots of depth with 3 buttons? It just really comes down to how you want to access your moves. Street Fighter could easily be 3 buttons as well, if they just decided to make it so that all of the attack buttons when you hold back on the controller turn into a kick, and down back is a kick, neutral is a punch, and down is a punch. You know, you can do all sorts of things. The reason why Virtua Fighter can get away with it and stuff is because they have a lot of extra codes. They have punch, hold towards and punch, tap towards and punch, double tap towards and punch, back towards and punch, down, back, towards and punch, towards and back and punch, etc., etc., etc. There are all sorts of different ways that you can make code commands, and so games with 3 buttons like that can be super complex because you can put in a lot of commands into any... I mean, honestly, you could make a fighting game with 1 button, right? I mean, obviously, a lot of people are going to bring up dive kick, which is just 2 buttons. There's a lot of depth to that game, but I mean, the mechanic is simple, right? So I'm talking about, like, you could probably make a 1-button Virtua Fighter game if you really, really felt like it and have just as many moves and just as many depth. It's just not convenient. It's frustrating to play it that way. So, you know, I doubt you're going to find a super complicated fighting game drop down to 2 buttons. 3 buttons is probably going to be the minimum. I mean, look at Persona, right? 4 buttons, but every button combination is like, every button combination is something different. So, you know, you could get away with however many button combinations you want. In fact, Guilty Gear started with 4 buttons. Dust and Sweep were the 2 middle buttons. I think you had to hit kick and slash. I think that was the code for them. And eventually they were like, you know what, let's just add a 5th button that just does this for them so they don't have to hit these double buttons. It's just, however they want to design the game, that's just how it is. And no matter what control scheme you have, you can make it as deep or as shallow as you want. Personally, I like 6 buttons. For any of you who've read my old facts, you know that I like 6 buttons. Okay, so let's see. So, Kingstown Yardy, I guess, asks me how much time do I put in the game, and my answer is going to be not enough. Just not enough, dude. It's pretty soul crushing, to be honest with you, that I'm so bad at a lot of these games now, and that I don't really get a chance to play Persona or King of Fighters. It's very frustrating. I wish I could put a lot more into the games. I want to be good at them again, but you know, to be honest with you, with as much as the scene has been blowing up, you know, traveling to these events and stuff like that, I also have a day job. So, honestly, I just don't have as much time to play as I'd like to. So, to be honest with you, the answer is, no matter how many hours I'm putting into it, it's just not enough anymore these days. And Mechanical Grape asks, can you please explain in what situations an EX Fireball should be used instead of a normal Fireball? I really like that question, because that is a very Footsie heavy question. And the answer is, I mean, it depends obviously on the character, on the game and such, but for the most part, if you have an EX Fireball, it is very much a momentum shifting move. It is when you find yourself in a situation and either you're too far on the defensive or you do not think you have enough of an advantage, that is when you use an EX move. And you have to measure it out on how much meter you have and stuff. This will come up more in the meter management episode that I want to do. So what's going to happen is when you're playing against another character, the reason why EX Fireballs are usually better is, one, they knock down. A lot of times they knock down. They don't always. Some characters don't have it. Ken, for example, in Street Fighter 4 does not knock down. But with Ryu, a huge thing. If you can catch someone off guard and hit him with an EX Fireball, you knock him down. Huge advantage. Now you've got all this frame advantage to do whatever you want. Even if they block it, because they have to block 2 hits instead of 1, the time that they recover is later. So you have more of an advantage there. So they block 2 hits of the Fireball. You now have more frame advantage. So when you throw your next Fireball, they're still in block stun. and they have to react to it, so it's harder for them. And a lot of times they just come out faster, so they're a great Footsie's tool. So when you're just both dancing around, you throw out an EX Fireball, they just walk into it and fall down. It's a great poke, in essence. Don't think of it as a projectile, think of it as a poke, as an extension. Vi always quotes John Choi's thing, like, think of fireballs as a Dalsum stand fierce or a stand strong. You know, that's the way you should be approaching projectile games. So that's why you would use an EX Fireball. Most of the time, it is for momentum shifts. Okay, so I'm going to take another quick break. When I come back, I will go back to some more of the emails, probably just for like another 15 minutes. And then maybe, if you guys enjoyed this, I mean, honestly, please tweet to UltraChen TV on Twitter. And let me know if you like these episodes with just these Ask jchensor questions, because to be honest with you, I got plenty of questions. I got way more questions to go through, and just me tweeting once, like, oh, if you want a question answered, go ahead and send an email to. Dude, I got so many questions today. I could have had the whole episode based on questions that I just got today. So, anyways, let's take a break. I'll come back, answer a few more questions when I return. Alright, everybody, welcome back to UltraChen TV. This is the first attack segment. I'm James Chen, aka jchensor, and there will be no Ultra David. As you can see, he is on chat. He is 3,000 miles away, so there will only be a first attack episode tonight. I'm just going to do a little bit more Ask jchensor questions based on the emails that I got today, because I got a lot of good emails. So let's keep going with those. This was one of the questions that I wanted to get to that I hinted at earlier. Ronald says, real talk, James. I play with Ken in AE. I was at a local tourney. I realized between that experience and the one that I had at Super Arcade's Wednesday Night Fights over his vacation, that he does not put winning ahead of playing honorably at times. I was talking with my crew about how confirming into throws was so cheap, and I can't bring myself to do it. I realized the throw can be reversed with the Shoryuken or just even get tech. It's not so much that I can't defend or reverse the behavior, I just refuse to win using that cheap shit. You know, I watched online Tony play, and, you know, it was obvious that it was just the win that he cared about. I'm not trying to bag on him, but it's just an example. Can you talk about the balance of playing honorably and getting that win at any cost? Yes, I can talk about that. There is no such thing as playing honorably. I'm just going to say that right now. All is fair in love and war. The games are designed to not be cheap. There's nothing cheap about a throw. And let me get on my little philosophical soapbox here, okay? It's time for the jchensor philosophical fighting game philosophy 101. Fighting games are designed specifically that no technique is too powerful. I mentioned earlier on that I am sad that throws are getting weaker because I love throws. And the reason why throws are not cheap in any way, shape, or form is because fighting games are designed so that there is a counter to everything. There is a counter to everything in the game. If there was something that there was not a counter to, that is what's broken. That is what makes the game no fun. Blocking is a very powerful tool in the game. There is a reason why people cry about turtling. But how do you counter blocking? How do you counter turtling? With throws. The throw is a specifically designed mechanic to counter over defensive players. So it's not cheap. It's not a problem that you can't block it. That's exactly what it's designed to do. It is designed specifically as a counter. There's nothing cheap about it. You shouldn't think about it as something that's cheap. It is a tool. It is a tool to help you win. And it is a very specific tool designed to help you win. In fact, many games, a character is designed specifically around throws. Even if it's not a Zangief character, normal throws. It's a very important part of their game. So, do away with this playing with honor stuff. You're limiting yourself. You're handicapping yourself. There's no such thing. And in fact, by not throwing your opponent, you can think of it this way, okay? Ronald, think of it this way, please. By not throwing your opponent, you are dishonoring your opponent because you are not using everything you can to defeat him. He can stop your throws and just as easily as you say you can stop other people's throws. So you know what? Keep throwing him until he starts doing it. If you hinder yourself, it's like you're tying one arm behind your back and you're saying, you know what? I can beat you without going all out. It's more dishonorable to not use the throws than it is to use the throws. Because when you're using the throws, you are giving your opponent all that you got. And he can counter your throws. If he can't counter your throws, keep throwing him. It's just like if you throw Hadoukens at him all day. If you keep throwing them and he cannot get around them, what are you going to do? Stop throwing Hadoukens? No, you're going to keep throwing him until he learns how to stop them. Right? Same thing with throws. Use them. There's no such thing about playing honorably, okay? That is a mentality that you need to get out of your system right now because there's just no such thing. This is a competitive game. We are designed to play this game in a way where we have to use everything to our ability to defeat each other. And trust me, that is what will make the game fun. That is what makes the game fun, and you will enjoy the game more. Alright, so let's go to the next email here. Let's skip this question here really quick. Okay, Jose asks me, he's been wanting to ask me, and this is another philosophical question, a very good question. Jose Beoga, I guess, I just totally butchered your name, I'm sorry. He's been wanting to ask me about the pattern and the future of new fighting games dying off one after another. This concerns me as a fan and supporter because I think I am part of the problem. The only fighting game I've bought is AE 2012 because it looked the most stable and was the most popular. As a casual player, I haven't tried any other games because I'm afraid I'll waste my time and money on broken mechanics or on a game that just doesn't survive. You know, obviously me and Ultra David do our best to hype a lot of games and he totally understands that and, you know, he appreciates that. He's just wondering, is there a way to organize it so that everybody can, you know, organize releases so that games don't overlap each other? And, you know, this is a really good question, and unfortunately, business is business. Everybody's just going to want to keep releasing their game because they expect their game to win, right? Win, and all the other games will drop off. It is rough, you know, when you don't get to play a lot of these games and you're not supporting a lot of these different scenes. If you have a chance to go to locals, play them casually there. Obviously, you know, you can't just sit there and go buy every fighting game. It's a very costly investment. So, you know, honestly, buy what looks fun to you. The nice thing about it is we have these streams, and frankly, every game is being streamed. And if you watch a game and it looks fun to you, buy it and play it. I mean, that's just the way it works. I mean, you have all these small communities all over the place, like the Vampire Savior community, like, you know, these CVS2 tournaments that NorCal plays on the Real Honest Sundays and stuff. There are these pockets that still play these games and they still love the games. And you know what? It's the ST guys, you know, Tournament of Legacy. It's so refreshing to see these guys with that as much love as they have for these games. And so, you know, even if you're playing a game that's not quote unquote, you know, the most popular game, you know, you will be surprised at how much enjoyment you can get out of going to something like EVO, finding the BYOC area and seeing somebody playing the game that you love as well. And then you never know, you could make some amazing friends that way. You know, finding these guys who love the same games that you love, you know, for the same reasons that you love them. So if you're having trouble trying to decide which of these games to go with, honestly, just watch them. Pick the one that you enjoy watching them, the one that looks the most fun to you. And we can do that nowadays. So you don't have to buy the games right away. So if a game comes out and dies in a month, you'll know in a month. If the game comes out and it still seems to have strong steam with it, buy it, play it, and try to support your local scenes for it. So, alright, so let's go on to the next question here. Let me see here. Save this one for later. There was a couple of questions I really wanted to do. So Larry asks a question that I totally sympathize with. He said that he's starting to learn fighting games. You know, just been playing for about a month roughly, but he's a semi-old dude working a 9-to-5 with not a lot of whole time for practice. What's the best use of his limited time, an hour or two a day if he's lucky, for learning fighters? And to be honest with you, this is one of those situations where you want to do a good job splitting between training mode and just learning tech and playing online. If you can get good matches online, play online a lot. But there was that episode where we analyzed King of Fighters 13, the grand finals at EVO, and showed how when we watched it, how we would go into training mode and testing. So you can do that when you play too. Play the game, and if you fight against a Honda and he just sits there and fierce headbutts you all day and you're like, I don't know what to do, and you die, stop playing online, go to training mode, see if your character has any counters to the fierce headbutt. You know, that's the best way to spend your time, alternating between playing online and testing things in training mode, and not just going into training mode and saying, I'm going to practice my combos now. Play online to give you what it is that you want to try out and test out in training mode. That is going to be the best way to use your time. And then while you're at work, you know, watch some YouTube videos when you have a break and stuff like that, you know. If you can, if you have a computer desk job. So, you know, just pick up on some strategies and stuff. So, all right. So, let me see another question here. Sorry if this is too long. Wow, I got a whole bunch more questions during the time of me actually doing this. Oh my god, I have 24 more questions. Holy moly. Okay, well, obviously I'm not going to get to it, and obviously, I mean, guys on chat right now, I mean, do you like this kind of thing? Do you like me going over all, like, lots of different questions like this instead of having a themed episode, just kind of doing these every once in a while? Is this something that you guys enjoy? Okay, cool. Okay, so these guys love it, and you know what? A lot of people are asking me to do less scrub questions and stuff like that. You know what? I mean, to be honest with you, I was planning to go through my backlog. I didn't expect. I mean, literally, I think I just got 40 new questions today, 40 to 50 more questions today. So what I'll do next time I do one of these episodes, I will take some time to look at the questions. I'll dedicate 15 minutes to more basic, questions, more beginner questions, and then I'll have more like on intermediate questions. I'll do another section on, expert questions, and then I'll have one more based on like community questions and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm glad everybody enjoyed this episode and stuff like that, and people enjoyed me just answering lots of random questions like this. So I'll do this more often. I'll definitely do this more often because in fact, to be honest with you, I enjoyed it too because I get to talk about a lot of different topics. There was one question that I remember getting that I really wanted to ask, that I really wanted to read, because, to be honest with you, so Amul asks this question, and it's particularly relevant, and I really wish David was here, and, dude, what the heck is going on over here? I wish David was here because this is a very relevant question. He basically asks, he's like, he was wondering if we see any people that have to stop playing fighting games due to issues with their hands. He has really bad carpal tunnel and he can no longer play fighting games, so he stream monsters all the time. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a problem that David has had. He's... Holy moly, what is going on? But, goodness gracious. There we go. Okay, but, yeah, obviously David has had some issues as well, and it's why he hasn't been as strong with the competitive games as much before. I mean, he obviously has this situation that's been preventing him from playing fighting games as effectively as he wants to. And it is an unfortunate situation if you really have this bad carpal tunnel and you can't play anymore. Well, my first question to you is, are you a pad player? If you are a pad player, you might want to consider going to joystick, because joystick definitely better for your hands, carpal tunnel wise, than a pad is. Second question, the second comment I have is, if it is still bad and there's no way you can play, it's a great time to even have that problem. It's never a good time to have that problem. But what I'm just saying is that the scene is thriving. There's so much to watch, and the great thing about the fighting game community now is that you don't have to be a player necessarily to enjoy the excitement and the hype. All of us out there who love watching football or baseball or basketball, we can't do that stuff, but we can go crazy watching these things, right? Fighting games are like that now. We have events almost every weekend, and it's fantastic. So, it's a great time to be a fan of fighting games. So even if you are unable to play due to unforeseen circumstances, there's still so much that you can enjoy out of the fighting game community right now. And, I still say, going to events, going to EVO is not about playing. I told everybody, so let's say, I don't want to go to EVO because I can't play anymore. What's the point? I met so many people at EVO on Friday and Saturday. They're just like, oh, EVO's sick. It's so cool, but I didn't do so well, blah, blah, blah. And I just told them, I'm like, wait till Sunday. Wait till Sunday. Sunday will blow your mind. It will be something that you've never seen before in your life. You will have no idea, you have no idea that you're so hyped right now for Friday and Saturday, but Sunday is just going to blow your mind. And I saw some of those people again, and they said after Sunday, and they were like, dude, you were 100% right. They're like, I was having a great time on Friday, Saturday. I did not know how much better of a time I was going to have on Sunday. So even if you can't play, still try to go to these events. Go to CEO. Go to UFGT8. I mean, you could sit there. Carpal tunnel's not going to affect you on dive kick, and he's got Balrog Ball and all these other things, dude. I mean, you go to the right events. You go to the right events, and you will have a good time. And again, I said it a little bit earlier, do your research on the events, and if you do have a bad experience, if you end up going to a crappy tournament or something like that, please don't let that affect your opinion, because there are so many wonderful tournaments out there. to go to that are just fantastic. So, you know, if you do go to a Lemon, if you happen to go to a Lemon, there've been a few of them this year. Not gonna name names, revelations. But you know, if you happen to run into any of them, just, you know, don't take it to heart, and try to find a tournament that will be enjoyable. If you came to a SoCal tournament that turned out to be bad, wait till Southern California Regionals, which is going to be in January 2013. So it's moving past December to January. But you know, go to Southern California Regionals. You will have an amazing time there. Go to the ones with good reputations and stuff. So yeah. So that's about it. I think I'm going to be done for the day. Again, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, email me at ultrachentv@gmail.com. I used to tell people to go ahead and tweet me as well, but the 140 character thing is just not doing it. So just send emails, ultrachentv@gmail.com. Send questions there. Put in the subject line, Ask jchensor. Again, I just got, I mean, the inbox is like at 25 now. It was at 0 when I started. So thanks guys for the questions. I'll do another episode like this again where I'll answer more questions. I will definitely try to group them a little bit more carefully next time. But thank you again for sending it. And I'm glad people enjoyed this, which lets me know I can do this again at some point in time. So again, Ultra David, obviously on chat. He is across the country right now. Hopefully we'll both be back next week. And tomorrow, actually, we will both be... I'm going to try to get David on Skype tomorrow. So hopefully we can set that up. We will have a lot of things to talk about. And, you know, for those of you guys who saw a certain video that both David and I tweeted out recently, tomorrow you might be able to get some more answers on what the deal with that video was. So... hang on, I'm going to paste it into the stream, guys. I'm going to paste a video into the stream really quick. If I can find... I should have it here. So, if you guys see this video here, take a look at that video, guys, and watch that. And tomorrow we just may have some more answers on what is going on. So please tune in tomorrow. We've got some fun announcements, and I'm sure David and I will take some time to talk about all the wonderful topics that you guys want to hear us talk about. And perhaps next week will be an extension of the Tuesday Haters. So, alright, I will see you guys later. Peace out, everybody.